This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
Hello. No picture. But hello anyway. You get a picture? Okay. Hello. Cole asked me to fill in for her again tonight. She's a little under the weather, but I'm sure she'll bounce back. Thing is, she's so busy all the time. She's doing so much stuff that it's mind-boggling. But those of us at the Empty Chair and MVP ASAP and Circle of Hope, we appreciate all the effort she puts into these shows and just the passion she has for recovery in general. Also, you'll be seeing the banner going under the show there. It has all those ones that are sponsoring us. And let's see, our season ends next month. We'll be starting a new season in September. We will be looking for sponsors. It's a great way to advertise, and every dollar that you give towards a sponsorship goes towards a scholarship to get people into a good, sober living home. So I hope you would think about that. Also, as you know, every Monday, 6:30 at the Quinn Building over at the METHUEN Police Station, we have our Circle of Hope meeting, loved ones of addicts. And on the first Monday of every month, Cole has what she calls Resource Night. And, whether you're in our group or not, you're more than welcome to come down and check out the resources that we're going to be having. I think that's it. Oh, I got to say hello to my wife, Fran, who's a warrior. Now, we have two guests. I just got a chance to meet them for the first time tonight. So they'll probably be boring and their story will suck. But, what the hell, they're here. So there's not much we can do about it now anyway. But anyway,
stuck with us.
Anyway, this is Mikey and this is Matt. And they're going to tell us just a little bit about the dark days. And then we're going to get into the warriors that they are now and what they're doing. And we'll see how it goes. So you want to bat first? Who wants to bat first?
Matty will go first.
Matt?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
Matt.
I'll show Mikey how it's done.
All right, do that.
Let's do it.
So, I'm here. I was invited by Cole first and foremost. I had just written a book, centers on my recovery, mostly my addiction, my last 12 years of my life. It's called the Duke of DoucheVille, and it is quite colorful in language, which I will not be using tonight. However, I will share my experience a little bit. I don't get too much into into the specifics of what I've done. It's pretty clear. What we do on a daily basis when we're going through that addicted state of mind. I'm no different. I woke up a loser. I went to bed a loser. I felt like a loser. There wasn't a day I woke up that I said to myself, geez, I really want to screw over everybody I love and, ingest endless, potentially fatal chemicals and lie to people, cheat people out of everything, have no, moral boundaries, have no ethical code. And feel good about it. There wasn't a day I ever woke up like that, but that's what I did. And I have to own that today. So my years of using started when I was 3 years old. I had
How old were you?
I was 3 when I was using Nintendo, Phil.
Oh, okay.
So I had to go see an eye doctor. I had to go see an eye doctor when I was 4 because I played Nintendo, so I could not physically bring myself to.
I got to tell you, you scared the shit out of me because we've had so many come in and say 9 and 10 years old. 3 was a new low, so I'm glad at least it was a different type of addiction.
Well, I mean, addiction, lends itself to not only to substance, but just about everything.
That's
I have addiction to sex. I have addiction to anything that raises my baseline dopamine, above a certain level, and I don't know what that level is until I try it. Unfortunately, just like most addicts.
Yeah, I don't want to make a commercial, but I have that same addiction to Heavenly Donuts.
Sure.
Oh my God.
Sure. Here I am sitting here with my 4th iced
latte
today.
There you go.
There are some addictions I can live with today.
Yeah.
And there are some I can't.
Yep.
And things that deplete me morally. Tear me away from my family, bring me away from my daughter. Those are the things I stay away from today. But my like I said, I first recognized addiction in myself at a very early age, through the inability to remove myself from certain situations, physically knowing that it was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
This carried through decades of my life. I'm in my 30s going to my dealer thinking to myself, this is absolutely wrong. I don't want to be doing this. I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going. As I'm sending him a text saying to myself, and I'm playing in my head the tape saying, well, maybe he won't reply. Knowing damn well, he's going to reply, or that, I'm going to use that as another excuse to say, hey, well, geez, I knew I shouldn't have done it, or geez, I was really not trying to use today. You justify everything.
Well, and you want to, and you're right. That's not your story. I mean, my daughter basically told me the same thing. Every morning she woke up, and she was going to quit.
Yep.
For about an hour.
Every day's your last.
Yeah.
Every day's your last, and every day you swear to yourself before anybody else. And I would be, I would be telling everyone, definitely not going out drinking, not going out doing this tonight. Every addiction of mine, every substance of mine took a back seat when I found methamphetamines. I was a pretty successful chef, and I won a pretty big award when I was about 28. I won Restaurant of the Year from the Globe.
Mm-hmm.
I had moved on and taken my career to Southeast Asia, where I started working in Singapore. I was clean. I was 3 years clean at the time. I put a good run together, and I visited Thailand a few times. I visited a few places in Southeast Asia, which is beautiful. I fell in love with the culture, the people, the land. It's just, everything's beautiful there. And I moved to Koh Samui, Thailand. I was brought there by an American chef who had burned out, also in recovery on the island. He had flamed out, for his first 7 years of partying, and then became an international consultant. And he had picked my CV resume out of about 1,500 applicants while I was living in Singapore. And he had me come into Koh Samui to open up this beach club called Beach Republic. And when I landed on the island, Phil, I had postcards, billboards with my face and my name on it. I had my face was on the magazine when I was on the plane flying there.
Oh, well, they didn't build you up too much, did they?
No. And when you land, you say, I made it, right? I'm here. I'm done. I finished, right? I'm good. Like, I can go drink now. Like, this is great. So I started doing the same old things, but I had never found methamphetamines in my life. I never heard of it. I probably had heard of it. I can't recall ever being around it or seeing it on the East Coast. And, I ingested it accidentally. I was actually leaving a club one night, and I couldn't find my motorbike. And the lady boys on the island, they like to get a little cheeky with all the foreigners leaving the clubs, and I was drinking pretty heavily that night, and, partying quite a bit. And, next thing I know, I woke up, I woke up naked on a stone slab in this crazy room. It was like right out of Silence of the Lambs. It was nuts. And, they were feeding me methamphetamines. And honestly, from that moment on, from what I had just gone through, I could care less. I could have cared less. If they were giving me more of this stuff, it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. And for the next about 12 years of my life, that was my first love.
12 years.
Yeah.
The way I read your bio, for the most part, during those 12 years, you were working.
I've always been a worker when it comes to.
Did you ever try to classify yourself as a functioning addict?
Oh, I classified myself as the highest functioning addict on earth. I was the youngest corporate F&B director in the Eastern world at the time. I was running 6 hotels and casinos in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I was spending every night with all kinds of people, the worst kinds of people, the type of people that if the people that I worked for knew I was hanging out with these types of people, that they wouldn't have believed it.
Well, the thing is, you could actually afford to be an addict.
Yeah, no, and they loved it. The people that couldn't afford it, they stick right to your side, right? You're their means. And I was a lot of people's means. I was that guy that was, I could spend 20 grand in a night, Bill, no problem. I have no problem, grabbing the money and having it spent before I even got out the door.
Sure.
And none of it was put into equity or anything healthy. I made all that money. I never paid a dime of rent.
Yeah.
Never paid my rent. I'd always say, geez, all right, I'm going to put this aside before the night was over. That was gone. Everything was gone. I was scrounging for another fix, and then I became that loser. And then my so-called friends were gone,
That happens,
Unfortunately, it does. Happens. Yeah, well, it's a good way to wean out the field,
Yeah, absolutely.
So from the Philippines, I had a blessing. My daughter was born. I had met a girl in Bangkok when I was, traveling around and living in Thailand. And, I jumped countries just as much as I jumped jobs at that time. And her mother and I met while I was working in Bangkok. And, my daughter was born ultimately in the Philippines. And I'll tell you, you know, I never had any desire in the world to be a husband or a boyfriend, you know, a brother or son. I could have cared less, but when it came to this kid, man, it's a sort of motivation. You know, I describe it as like, you know, ultimately, I felt like I was looking at my own life from the bottom of my stomach while this psycho had the wheel.
Yeah.
You know, and no matter what I did, I couldn't fight him off. I couldn't get to the top. I couldn't take the wheel at any point. You know, despite this kid was, you know, my driving force. You know, it took, geez, 9 years of her life. Finally, she ended up moving here, and it was always a struggle. You know, she doesn't know much. You know, I'm the greatest thing in the world to her, but she doesn't know the battle I've been through. She's a very smart kid. She knows a little bit of it, you know, and I've spoken to her a little bit, but, you know, the book centers around her, you know, her time living with me and whatnot. And can we get into the good stuff now?
Well, I'll
walk
tell you
into
what.
the good stuff now?
Well, let's at least start where you finally said enough.
So my daughter was abducted for the second time. She was taken from me for the first, when she was 13 months old, her mother had enough. You know, I was traveling around Southeast Asia. I was using, I have a tough time segueing into the story, I guess. So we bounced around a lot. So she was born in the Philippines. We moved back to Thailand because, you know, her mother wasn't really comfortable, you know, moving abroad. We had ultimately plans to move and raise her in the United States, but, you know, her mother wasn't comfortable because of the way I was behaving in the Philippines. I really wasn't home. I was, you know, running around with all kinds of girls and drugs and whatnot. So I don't blame her. But at 13 months, she disappeared out of a mall on April 27th in 2012 when my daughter was born in 2011. So 2012, April 27th, she walked out of a mall in Bangkok angry, and I didn't speak to my daughter again until July 16, 2015. You know, from that point when we reconnected in life, I made every effort. I paid every bill. I put her through international school in spite of my addiction. You know, I just battled. It was always a battle. You know, nothing was ever so hard as to manage both ends of that. And
so what made you finally decide to say enough?
So she moved here with me.
Oh, okay.
Ultimately, when she was 8. She was 8 years old when her mother had asked, "Hey, listen, you know, you've been doing a good job with these payments. You know, you've been visiting, and you know, you seem to, you know, be doing a good job as a father, and she wants to go there more than anything. She wants to live with me." So this kid had no dream in the world other than to come live with Dad. So yeah. I said, great. And she moved here, and we lived in my brother's basement, and we battled out of it. You know, I battled out of it for her. You know, always fighting my addiction, you know, putting together 2 months, 2 weeks, 1 week, whatever it was that I could, you know, pay a bill or get an apartment or, you know, get her enrolled into school, you know, whatever I could do, I did the bare minimum, but I did it.
Right.
And we moved to Boston together. We had a great little place, and we survived COVID. You know, we went through the 2-year stretch where, you know, travel was banned and, you know, people weren't going out. And this past July 21st, we had made plans. I'd been on a pretty good streak. I had, you know, been clean for a couple months, put together, you know, a little bit of money to send her back to see her mother for a vacation, and sent her back, and her mother didn't send her home to me. So they disappeared off the face of the earth 4 days before her return flight. Her mother was skeptical of my using, and decided that she was going to, you know, pull her out of my life again. And to my daughter's dismay, she's been torn up and heartbroken since. So I had another relapse just after I found out the good news, like I usually do. You know, I went for a little ride in the pity wagon, and I threw my dealer out of my house. I threw a couple friends that were nothing but using friends out of my house that were living in my daughter's room and filling her drawers with crystal meth. You know, just gross, just disgusted at myself. So that was this past September 28th, and you know, have done nothing but work on myself and getting me back in my daughter's life again since.
So what do you built up for clean time now?
So just about 7 months now.
Okay. How do you feel about it this time?
Different. There's no uses left for me.
Okay.
I have a desire. I have the taste in my mouth. You know, almost on a weekly, if not daily basis, Phil. I don't care. Yeah. I don't give a rat's ass what it is. There's nothing that's bringing me back to it.
Okay.
And I've never in my life put together the sort of fight that I have. And a lot of it stems from the struggle that I went through putting together the 2 weeks to 3 weeks and always going back and diving back in.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to hold you up now
Sure.
because we'll be coming back in the second half to talk about the more pleasantries
I love that
of
part.
your life. And by the way, folks, I should have mentioned it, but if you were a live show, if you want to call in, say hi to one of the guys, or you have a question, you want to call me and tell me to go shit in my hat, anything you want to call, that's good. Okay. And now we go to Mikey.
What's up, guys? How you doing? How you doing, Phil?
I'm good. I'm good. And pretty much the same thing. Give us
Absolutely.
the streamline. You want to know something? I don't want you to relive all the years
No,
you've
I
been
got it,
doing
I
it.
got
I
it.
want you to get through it as quick as you can.
I
Go ahead.
gotcha.
Go for it.
All right. So I was born and raised in Framingham, Mass. You know, my father and mother. My father was a political advisor. My mother was a doctor. I had everything I wanted. I just had the authority problem and the control problem from the young age. So I had this disease inside of me before I ever picked up a drug or a drink. I had a lot of fear, insecurity, and that put me through a lot of trouble growing up. You know, I just couldn't control my anger. Like I said, I needed to have everything under control because I had a big fear of the unknown, not having control of the situation. So that got me in trouble growing up. I spent my youth and high school and middle school years in juvenile lockups and residentials. I signed myself out at 18, and I just started ripping and running. I had a lot of years to make up. I didn't go to high school in my public school. I didn't go to middle school, so I missed out on proms, the parties. So I told myself, now I'm a man at 18. I can start to live my life, and I went through over 50 detoxes the moment I found drugs, especially heroin. That's my drug of choice, fentanyl. IV drug addict. And for 7 years I was in the grip. 7 years. And I'll tell you how bad it was, and what got me clean, and how I got sober. And I was the addict that went to countless facilities, and everyone knew me by my first name. I was comfortable when I didn't have any responsibilities, when I didn't have to handle life on life's terms. That's when I was comfortable. Put me in a jail, put me in a treatment center.
Sure.
I can follow rules to the T.
It's not unusual at all.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's nothing like having structure and everybody deciding what you're going to do and when you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no brain work left.
That's it, and when I got high, it was I had three modes, right? It was getting high, being dope sick, and chasing my next bag.
Yeah.
Anything else, any responsibilities, my kid having trouble in school, my dad catching health problems, being fired from multiple jobs, it did not matter. My only goal was to not be dope sick.
My daughter told me that being an addict was the toughest job she ever had in her life.
It's a 24-hour job. You got to remember all the lies you tell, the
Sure.
people that you take from.
Yeah.
You got to keep up. It's an exhausting way to live every day.
It truly is.
You got to remember to lock your doors too.
Absolutely.
Oh, but you're kidding me. We bought a safe. We locked the doors. Fran used to put stuff in the trunk. Oh, yeah, we're old hands.
And you don't even think about like the pain that you're putting the loved ones through.
We
don't see that. We have the
no.
blinders on.
Well, of course,
Absolutely.
And well, you go ahead, because the second half we're going to have discussion.
Right. Absolutely. So, it was to the point. I got to the point where every time I loaded up my needle, I prayed to die. I was done. It was countless pain. I was waking up. I couldn't start my day until my dealer was ready. I couldn't even get out of bed. Just couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I lost the hope of just talking to people with eye contact. I was always looking down at my shoes.
Yeah.
Countless jobs. I didn't care about what people thought of me. I only thought if they had something for me, that's all I cared about. I was a
Tell
taker.
me something. Did you have it in your mind that this was the way you were going to die?
Absolutely. I accepted the fact that I was going to be
that's what I meant to say.
a Facebook post, and someone was going to find me with a needle in my arm. And they were better off without me, because I take hostages when I'm in addiction.
Sure.
Absolutely. When I hurt, everyone hurts around me. And, and it might not be on purpose, but that's what the disease's checklist is trying to check off,
Truly,
It's trying to strip you of
I'll tell you,
everything.
I'll bet everyone in active addiction affects at least 50 people friends,
The
family, where you
the trickle
were.
effect is,
Oh,
is insane
absolutely.
that we don't even think about until
No.
it's too late. And you know, I was the guy that was going in, and I didn't even make it out of detox. You know, I'd get like 3 or 4 days in, and then my disease would tell me, you know, you're all better, you got this. Because for the longest time, I slept on the mental game.
Yeah.
I only thought it was a physical disease. You know, a physical.
Yes, good for you.
You know, I'll go to treatment, I'll get out, and I got this. I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm done being sick. And you know, every time I left treatment, I had a needle in my arm in less than 15 minutes. You know, and then it came to I can use in moderation. I'll just do it
Sure.
Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. No, it was a everyday 24-hour thing. Nothing else mattered at that point.
You and my daughter and probably so many other people in recovery must have used the same playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whatever makes us win gets us our
Yep.
next. And so I had enough. And
Now, how old were you when you said I've had enough?
so today is my 18th month of being
Awesome.
sober. I got sober October 5th, 2020.
Wow.
So I'll just say something too. Like, I've been to so many treatment centers, I max them out when I was in addiction. So I'd go to them until they said, you've been here too many times. It's not working.
Yeah.
And I was the addict that, like I said, I take people hostage. So I'm calling, trying to AMA out of a facility, and my family's like, absolutely not. And then I would just go start a fight or get kicked out on purpose. So then the phone call comes, you have to come pick me up from the police station, or you pick me up from the treatment center. So it was crazy, the things that I would put them through and not even think about it in the long game, you know. And it affected them so much. And you know, COVID just happened, and like I said, I got to the point where I was praying to die every single time. Everything has been taken from me. My disease just had that final checkbox to check, and that was me trying to load up and kill myself. And
did you ever have any close calls?
I had one close call. You know, I got like 12 or 13 days clean, and I went home and left treatment again, and then I went to the grocery store that night, and just so happens I saw my drug dealer in the grocery store, and you know, I went home and it burned a hole in my pocket, and I loaded up, and it was just the tiniest bit, but I woke up to 5 paramedics over me in my bathroom, and my fiance crying, and it was a mess, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, it happened to me. Because for the longest time, we think it's not going to happen to me.
Absolutely.
We're invincible. We're bulletproof.
Yeah.
Like,
my daughter used to say, it won't happen to me. It just happens to them.
yeah,
They're
absolutely.
stupid. They don't know what they're
They
doing.
don't know how much they're
I'm
doing.
a smart drug user.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I trusted my drug dealer like he was the trustworthiest guy in the whole world.
Yeah. If you can't trust your drug dealer,
he
well,
could just
I
never
guess
be
you
on
can trust
time.
anybody.
He could just never be on time, but he was super trustworthy, you know.
Yep.
And, so I called RCA, Recovery Centers of America, because like I said, I've been to all over the facilities, and they had what I thought it took to get me sober, but they told me no. They told me absolutely not. And COVID just started happening. You've been here way too much, man. Just try another facility. We don't think it will work for you here. And I said, no, please. And they said, absolutely not. So I went to New England Recovery Center in Westboro. And they didn't even let me in the door. It was right when COVID happened. I walked in with 102 temp. And they said, do you have COVID? And I said, no, my arm hurts. And I gave myself my first abscess. And being a drug addict, I'm my own doctor. Let me just do more drugs. It will go away. It will be fine. But they rushed me right to Marlboro Hospital via ambulance. They lanced it. I was in the hospital saying, listen, I just walked into detox. I'm a fentanyl addict. I'm a benzo addict. I need help. So they lanced it, and they kept me in there for about 4 days, weaning me down. And I was scared to go to the street because I know what was waiting for me. My disease was just waiting for me to walk out a door. That's all it would take. And I called RCA again. And I said, please, like, I need help. And they said, I can't help you. I'm so sorry. So I called Washburn in Worcester, and they had a CSS bed because I didn't need detox anymore. They helped me in the hospital, and they said, we don't have a bed for you tonight, Mike, but come in tomorrow. We have a bed for you. Just go home. Don't get high. I walked out those hospital doors. I had a needle in my arm in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. You know, COVID, no COVID, whatever. When somebody is ready to go into a facility, I don't care if they've been to 100 of them, and somebody says no, or there's no bed, that tells you there's something wrong with the system. Nobody should be deprived to try to get help.
Absolutely, but it's understandable as well. If
No,
if
I'm
I
gonna
walk through
see.
20 times,
I'm gonna tell you. To me, it's not understandable because how many times did you try?
over 50.
You made it though.
Absolutely.
So what would have happened if on try 45 nobody would take you ever?
I'd probably be dead by
You'd
now.
probably be dead by now.
Absolutely. So you'll get the kick out of my story. So I went to Washburn and I was high. I went in high and I went into a residential program thinking I was fooling everybody, tying my own shoelaces. And I went to bed that night. They have bunk beds in their program. And I just got my arm lanced. The infection's still in there. And I rolled off because I was so messed up off the top bunk. And I landed on my arm in the middle of the night. I went down to the nurse at 6 a.m. and I said, I don't feel good. We had another 102 temp and the infection is now spreading.
Yeah, but didn't you try to impress them tying your shoes again?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, I mean, because actually you're way ahead of me. I got to wear those damn Velcro things, you know.
It's got slip-ons these days.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So they told me they wanted me to go to Framingham Hospital because that's where I'm from and that's where my PCP wanted me to go. So I went over there and they admitted me. The sepsis was spreading up my arm and they lanced it and they got it out. I was in there for about 5 days. They weaned me down a little bit again because they were giving me some medication while I was in there for the pain. And I left. I got out of the hospital and I had to be in control again. So I said, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm going to RCA, Recovery Centers of America, even though they told me no. And if I don't get in, I'm going to kill myself. So I started emailing back and forth, and I finally got a hold of Laura Ames. Shout out to Laura Ames. She was the CEO over at Recovery Centers of America. And we finally started talking, and she said, give me about till 4:15 on this date, which was tomorrow. And if you don't hear from me, then I'm sorry, like we can't help you. And, that day came, and me and my fiance were driving up to New Hampshire to get cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes at the time, and we were almost to New Hampshire, and it was like 4:20. And I turned to my fiance and I said, I'm sorry, they're not letting me in. I'm going home. I just got a bunch of fentanyl. I'm going to kill myself. Like, this is it. And, literally as I said that to her, my higher power came into play. An electronic billboard was on the highway, and it said, don't give up. And it said RCA Danvers. And then literally 5 minutes later, my email popped, and I got to bed.
That was the beginning.
Absolutely. It was my God shot, because I was raised Catholic, went to CCD as a young kid. And I always had the biggest resentment with God, saying, if you're real, why am I a drug addict? Sure. Why am I experiencing this pain? What is your plan for me? So I lost touch with him for a long time, thinking he wasn't real. And this is just my world and how I'm going to have to live it. And, once I saw that sign and the switch flipped. It was the pain and switch flipped, and I was ready. The fire was lit. The sparkle came back in my eye, and I said, I'm going to fight for my life, and I put the same energy into my recovery every single day that I did chasing my bag.
Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break. Though you guys out there, don't forget it's a live show. You want to call in, ask these guys a question, or just tell them how proud you are of them, like I am. Give us a call. Be right back. Hi there. My name's Phil Leahy, and I do the Empty Chair Show here. And as much as Fran and I have enjoyed doing this show, our real passion is with where it all began, the Circle of Hope, my support group for the families of addicts. I learned a long time ago that dealing with an active addict is just too difficult. So we invite you to join our group, the Circle of Hope. Give me a call, 978-886-2949, and you'll see our banner on the show anyway. And give me a call, find out what it's all about. If you don't think you're ready to sit into a group, Fran and I always invite people over to the house, and we sit down, have a one-on-one, and we talk about a plan you'll have to set up, how to deal with someone in active addiction, or just give you a chance to vent. So, if you or someone you know has dealing with someone in active addiction, reach out, give a call, take the first step. I promise you that it won't make it easier, but once you understand what it's all about, you'll be able to deal with it a little bit better. So again, 978-886-2949. Just ask for Phil. I'm always available 24/7. Thanks, and we'll see you on the empty chair. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome back to the second half hour of our show. So we went through the past, and now we're going to go to what's current, what these guys are up to, and they reminded me on how they happen to bump paths. And they're both alive, so apparently it had to be friendly, I'm going to guess.
You know, Mikey and I met in the strangest situation. You know, Phil, you had touched on me being a highly functioning addict, and through my using with, I went into corporate dining as a chef because I wanted that, you know, those hours. I wanted my time to use, right? I didn't want to be in a restaurant till 12 a.m. So I went into corporate dining. I was quite successful, and I was successful to the point of running a business, making a lot of money for the business, and I had jumped around a lot, and I was working for a company doing very well. Needless to say, my addiction caught up with me, and I had stolen $50,000 cash from my employer, right on the verge of me getting a promotion into district management and becoming a national guy for this.
Yeah, that's probably
company.
not that you want to get their attention, but that's probably not the way you want to do it.
Wasn't the best way.
No,
you know,
no.
I'll never forget.
But you did get their attention.
I did. I surely did. So I walked into the owner of the company. I walked into his office one day, and I told him to his face I had stolen $50,000 cash from him, and that I had a problem, and that I needed help. And I went to a recovery program out in Ashby, Mass, Spring Hill, and they were very good to me. But they don't really keep eyes on you afterwards. So my company didn't call the cops. The owner was great. You know, he appreciated all the effort and time I put into the company. He said, Matt, you know, I'm gonna send you to rehab. You know, I want you to come back and you know, we'll see where you're at. And he gave me a job again. But he said, Matt, I'm gonna give you a job at Spectrum Recovery in Westboro because it was one of our accounts. So I was now managing the corporate, the cafeteria dining for a detox and a recovery program. Mikey was in this program at the time.
Okay.
I'd like to say that
One of my 50.
Yeah, there was about 20 guys and 20 girls in that program, and I was very close with them. I served their food every night. I was responsible for refreshing this unit, going in and seeing what they needed for refrigeration and things like that, upgrading them because recovery centers were doing very well. There's a lot of state funding that goes into that 30-day program. There's just not a lot of money that goes into what comes next.
Right.
So Mikey was part of that, you know, that 30-day, that 90-day situation, and we became good friends. He and another kid, Dana. I know three people from that class that I was overseeing and serving food from have died to this day. And I've watched it on Facebook in a surreal way, you know, them just popping up and saying, hey, you know, RIP. And it's, you know, Mikey, I'm just glad I wasn't one of them. But he and I met there, and subsequently I relapsed right before they moved me on to UMass Medical in Worcester, which was my next promotion as I was now graduating back up through the company, you know, victim of my own success. Mikey came, you know, looking for a job. And I said, yeah, you want a job? I'll give you a job. I mean, you know, he was great. He was on that upswing, you know. And it didn't take Mikey long to hit that downswing. And, you know, Mikey could tell you the story too, but he come in, you know, looking like a bag of dick every day. And I didn't want to fire him. You know, I felt obviously I know what he's going through. You know, I know, you know, the guys that do the downers have a harder time piecing the work together. You know, I was an upper guy. You know, I used speed. I could run around the place and I could work 24 hours a day. You know, Mikey was coming in, you know, drooling and he didn't look me in the eye. And that was the day I said, hey, Mikey, Mikey, I know you relapsed. He said, how do you know? I said, you haven't looked me in the eye in a week, bro. You know, and the next day he didn't show up. And, you know, our next time our paths crossed were, you know, we've kept in touch with each other. We stay in constant communication with each other, even through our downtime. And, you know, since we've both been on this lifelong upswing, it's, you know, we just try to stay close to each other and, you know, help each other spread the message, you know, our own stories. We both focus on recovery in a different way. And, you know, I think it's good for people to see both ends of it.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me something. All right, Mikey, your personal life now.
Yep.
What's that like?
Oh, it's
your
amazing.
family, what you do?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm very blessed today. You know, I say I'm too blessed to be stressed, you know, like with the luxury life problems, the minuscule life problems. You know, my life is very peaceful. I work very, very hard to avoid chaos and drama and negative energy, you know, because that's the stuff I'm addicted to. And, you know, I'm a creature of habit. And if I get into the swing of something that's the wrong thing, I'm down quick. So right now I have a fiance. Her name's Shannon. I've been with her for 9 years. We just celebrated this year.
She's a warrior.
Oh, warrior. You know, shout out to her because literally.
I think there's another warrior sitting out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. You know, they hold us down. And without her, I'd be dead. You know, she stuck with me through my treatment centers, stuck with me through my incarcerations, you know, and I have a stepson, Noah. He's 11 years old. You know, he's an awesome kid.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, what I do is I am walking, living proof of the company that helped save my life. So I am a business development officer for Recovery Centers of America.
Well, I had kind of figured it had to do. I mean, you've been pushing the shit out of them. So
He's the poster child.
yeah.
It's cool. So I get to work with all the hospitals in the Southern Middlesex,
Right.
and I get to help people get into treatment. And sometimes I get to go in and sit and talk with them and share my experience, strength, and hope, and let them know that we do recover, man. It is possible. Like, listen to how bad I got, and it is possible to recover. It just starts with, for me, I had to be physically removed from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, I run young people's meetings in Newton, Auburndale weekly. I go to about 9 meetings a week. My secret formula is paying it forward, just helping the next suffering. You know, it gets me out of myself a lot, and when I'm outside myself, my disease has no chance, I don't think.
Well, I'll tell you what, and something you mentioned, getting people into treatment. I know I've done that quite a few times. It's got to be the greatest feeling in the world, ain't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the greatest feeling in the world is just seeing the light come back on in someone's eyes. That's the most beautiful thing.
Because I quite a few of the people that were on scholarship, I keep in touch with also, and sometimes they'll give me a call and tell me something good that happened to them and so forth, and it's like, you know, amazing.
No, it is absolutely.
So, what about parents?
So I have a mother and father. I don't really talk to my mother. You know, we had a falling out over 12 years ago. She married a guy that gave her 2 options: pick me or pick your kids. She went one way, and she hasn't been there for my whole addiction incarceration. So, you know, maybe some point later in life, I'll reach out to her and make that connection. But my father, shout out to my father. He was my Superman. He was my rock. Without him, you know, he was my biggest hostage I took. You know, some say he enabled, but you know, he just didn't have it in his heart to cut me off and watch me die. You know,
parents.
But it got to that point, Phil. Actually, you know, right at the end of my addiction, he said, "Please go kill yourself if you want to kill yourself, but don't hurt anybody in the process." Yeah. You know, and he was just ready.
That had to be tough to see him.
Yeah, for years he was waiting on the edge of the bed. You know,
but you know, like I said, I understand where he's coming from, because I can remember the time my daughter OD'd and we thought we were going to lose her, and we're on the way to the hospital, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, maybe this time she does die. It's going to break my heart, but her pain's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and you want to know something? I always tell that story because it bothers me so much that I even thought that.
You know what? But you guys don't want to watch us suffer. No parent wants to watch their kids suffer. We have so high hopes and dreams for our kids growing up.
Nobody wants to mourn the living.
No,
absolutely.
It's much easier to mourn the dead.
And you're absolutely right. And I'm going to tell you, your dad's probably the happiest guy in the world, because I know me and my wife are the happiest people. Let's talk about your current.
My current situation is one I would have never. I couldn't have foreseen, you know, the turnaround, the happiness, the opportunity. It stays in the ability to stay small and not become. This is when I say different, I mean different because I live in the solution. I don't do meetings. I speak when asked to speak. I go help people if somebody asks me to help. I'm the type of guy that if I'm involved in recovery on a daily basis, I end up relapsing. You know, because I feel like I'm going through life as an addict.
Okay.
You know, it's not that I shy away from it. I just have a different path. You know, my path is one of, you know, if anybody reads Eckhart Tolle, it's just living within my moment. It's being able to know myself more than anyone. You know, I repeatedly did things that I had no chance of succeeding in.
Yep.
And continuously telling myself that this time was going to be different. And it was typically centered around substance, you know, gambling, you know, sex, anything that took me out of myself. Right. And I just try to know myself today. I've been fortunate enough to reconnect with a lifelong friend. Our fathers were actually friends for 30 years at Malden Mills, and she's heard every story about me because, you know, my father and mother.
That brings me back. It said you were born in Mingya Valley.
Sure, I grew up right down the street from here, Phil, Maryland. I used to smoke.
Maryland,
I
absolutely.
started smoking cigarettes at Super Swirl.
Yeah.
I started smoking weed down in the Mosquito Junkyard. I used to push cars into the river. You know, John Banana used to chase me around on his ATV and you know, catch me for, you know, hanging out in his farm.
Yeah.
You know, I lived back in the good old days when you could go knock on people's doors over here and throw eggs at their houses and, you know, have a good time. You know, my family came from the projects in Lawrence, my mother and father. You know, my brother and sister, I'm the middle child. They have no you know, addictive tendencies whatsoever.
Sure.
They've mourned me at times, you know, for most of my life. They're in my life in a big way today. My sister does my editing in my books. My brother, who has been my best friend through life, and, you know, has just brought him to, you know, pieces, watching me, you know, live in his basement and be this, you know, this fictional character in his mind that he could have never anticipated. And you know, as much as it hurt him, he'll always say, I just know that's not you, Matt. My parents would lock up their checkbooks, their wallets, you know, if I was coming by, it was, you know, what do we got to hide, you know, and they were right for doing so.
Yeah.
You know, they're my biggest supporters. They're my biggest fans.
Yeah.
And my father has been the only person in this world who has held me accountable to date. You know, he's the only person that did enable me. You know, I took my sister-in-law's credit card one day, you know, because I was, you know, running out of gas and I had to get to Boston to get my next bag. And, you know, I was running low on funds and, you know, I needed that emergency out just in case. And I obviously knew it was, you know, teetering the line. And, you know, my dad picked me up off the couch and said, get the F out of here, man.
Yeah.
You know, and that broke me. So, you know, he's been the only person that's been holding me accountable. You know, I could sell my mother a piece of the Brooklyn Bridge. You know, no matter what, no matter how bad I was, you know, this woman just never wanted to be the reason that, you know, that I ended up dead in a ditch.
Yeah.
And she felt as if she wasn't supporting, you know, at least a piece of it. You know, if she wasn't negotiating with the addict in me, then she wasn't doing her part, you know. And you know, shame on me for using her that way.
Well, you know, I agree with her just a little, because the support group that we do.
She's listening, so she'll love hearing
Okay.
that.
The support group that I do, we don't enable, all right? But we don't detach, and we don't believe in tough love. I learned when my daughter was 15 months clean and relapsed, and I thought I was going to lose her, that I wanted her to know I was going to be there. I wanted her to know that if she died, her and I were on good. So I would visit her every couple of weeks down in the streets of Lynn. We'd have a little chat. I'd buy a coffee, give her a couple packs of cigarettes. Wouldn't talk about recovery and nothing. Just talk about family, old times. And when I left, I'd say, when you're ready, let me know. 6 months later, she let me know. But I know what your mom feels because, you know.
You know, throughout my years, Phil, when I wasn't close to home and I was living in Asia, you know, it was probably the love of my mother that kept me from killing myself. You know, not being able to piece together who I, the you know, this person that I purported to be and that I saw in myself, and just falling so far off that scale, you know, to me was enough to take my own life and to not come back from that, you know. And it was probably my mother's love that kept me there, you know. But it was ultimately, you know, being held accountable for who I am, you know, as a normal person that walks the streets, as a, you know, an obligated human.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's a very tough thing for parents to learn how to deal not only with someone in active addiction, but also with someone in early recovery. Because
there's no playbook for it.
Yeah,
No.
they can drive you crazy. Parents can drive you to use. They look at me up and down.
But you know, we have to understand that we created that. I created every situation. Where I am today, you know, even with my daughter being so far away and being miserable and not wanting to be where she is, you know, I enabled the situation. I created the situation.
Yes.
You know, you control the outcome of every situation in your life.
You do.
You
But
know?
I mean, you know, to me, you know, it is a disease.
Sure.
You know, don't matter how you got there, but once you're there, you're a very sick person.
Sure.
And it takes a lot of courage to get clean because, like you said, it's not the fit. Anybody, any fool can get clean. But to stay sober, that's a trick.
Sure. I mean, I got clean a million times,
Sure.
you know. You give yourself a pat on the back and you end up right back out there.
I can ask you one other thing, because
Sure.
you don't do meetings, so obviously you don't have a sponsor or nothing like that, right?
Right.
But you're gonna have tough times. Who do you reach out to talk to?
I have more support than I would have ever imagined. So my wife, who we've been married for 2 days.
How many?
2 days. We just got married
Congratulations.
on
Testing,
Tuesday.
testing. I don't know if I heard that right.
Yes,
2 days.
my new wife, who I've known for 30
Lou,
years.
isn't that nice? They're spending their honeymoon on the empty chair. Hi, Tammy.
Tammy
Congratulations.
now, who
Tammy, come over here.
I love to
Come over
no
here.
end.
Come over here.
She allows me to be the the most authentic version of me.
How
Without
the hell
apology.
did he get someone as good looking as you?
That's what everyone keeps asking.
Oh my
you know?
God.
I'm
Tammy,
gonna cling on, but
congratulations.
Thank you.
Really. I don't know how you put up with this guy, though, but
No, he's
God bless
amazing.
Another warrior.
I wouldn't trade him in for anything.
well, well, don't forget, trade-ins can.
No.
yeah, you can
Nothing.
upgrade.
We'll give you a
Good
good
answer.
interest rate
No.
too. No?
The best. I couldn't,
Thanks, Tammy.
I couldn't be more grateful for Tammy, for my family returning to my life. What I do today is I live life like a normal human being because that's what makes me feel like a normal human being. And I reach out to people in recovery. People reach out to me that are in recovery because that's who I am. I'm an addict. I'm going to wake up every day of my life an addict.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to spend my life in addiction halls. I have no problem. I mean, I've acknowledged and I know exactly who I am. But for me, having to do that and feel obligated in my mind that I have to be
Sure.
there every single day, I'm the worst when it comes to authority and structure and schedule.
Well, and to me, it don't matter how you get there as long as you get there.
Correct.
But I also know that, if you're doing it like that, as long as you have a good support system.
Sure.
Because parents can't deal with it on their own, and addicts definitely can't deal with it on their
I
own.
got an education in AA. I wouldn't know who I am without AA.
Right.
I spent from the age of 25 to 28 putting there that 3 years before I moved to Asia, as the coffee maker,
Sure,
the greeter, the guy booking, the booker, the treasurer. I was that guy there at the hall, opening it up and doing everything every day.
Yeah.
At some point in my life, though, I have to get away from that because that part of me, that person that was doing that, as great as he wasn't the authentic version of me. I have a dark edge to myself. I don't want to lose that, but I don't want to sugarcoat it or bullshit it either.
Nope.
So when my book, to me, that's my fourth and fifth step. There's no more self-deprecating words that have been ever assembled than what's in those 300 plus pages.
Sure.
And it's been as much humility as it brings to me. For me, it's liberating.
Yeah.
It's the most liberating thing I've ever done in my life. The people, you think that friends leave you. I mean, I've had 200 friends from high school, if not more, reach out, tell me how proud they are of me, that they've read my story, that, and they keep me going,
That's awesome. All right, here's, now you guys are relatively new to recovery, actually. I mean, you got 7 months and you have
18.
18. That's about what I got,
He's got 19.
Which
I'm
you-
pretty sure October 5th, this will be 19. I was doing it in my head.
October 5th.
The 19 months.
November,
Mine's
December,
October
January,
25th, 2
February,
years.
March,
Oh,
April, May.
All right,
How
my
about
man.
that?
You're
Yeah.
in 19 months.
19 months.
Okay.
Hey, I appreciate that, Matt.
But
He cuts himself short.
yeah, well, and to tell you the truth, I never even knew I was an alcoholic until COVID.
COVID, saved my life. to tell you the truth.
COVID pushed me over the edge.
Mhm.
Where I
COVID
couldn't-
accelerated my process of
it
getting to my
absolutely
bottom
did.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife, who basically, you know what? She used to yell at me when I was drunk and like this. This time here, she didn't yell at me. She just talked to me.
Mm.
And it sunk. Oh, I shouldn't be building her up so much. I hope that was not even. All right. What I would like you guys to kind of because we got about 10 minutes left.
Sure.
I'd like to know, whereas you guys are not long in the recovery world,
Mhm.
what would you, the 7th or 8th grader who's maybe dabbling with marijuana, what would you tell them from the mistakes you made? How could they correct it?
I'll go first.
Sure.
Show me how it's done.
I don't know if I'll show you how it's done here, because I'm the firm believer, and you have to get your knocks in life. You know,
Mm.
I'm a firm believer that those people that are, I was kept from even the mention of narcotics my entire life. I lived in a fluffy life. I didn't know what anything was. I wanted to find out because I felt as though it was being, it was being hushed. You know, we,
All right,
we
well,
didn't
let me
talk
ask.
about
Let
much.
me ask you a quick question. You're Maddie in the 6th grade.
Sure.
Maddie's sitting here. If he comes to talk to Maddie in the 6th grade, do you think he can make him think about it?
I wish, but Maddie's a really hard-headed guy, and I
What
don't
about
think-
the guy sitting next to Maddie?
I would tell him, I would, obviously we know, and I'm not, like I said, I think, nature versus nurture. I think it's going to happen, for most people. I just hope that the extent of what they go through, what they say is, the pain is inevitable. The
Mhm.
suffering is optional.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you're going to experience that pain, that's inevitable pain to me, especially if you're an addict. It's the suffering that's optional. It's what you do and how quickly you get to know yourself as a person that gets you out of where you are. And, I wish I wasn't so wet behind the ears, but the pain for me was inevitable. That was never going to not happen.
Okay.
Maddie in the 6th grade, or Maddie in the 12th grade, or Maddie at any point in time, was going to feel some pain.
You believe that?
I know that for a fact.
Okay. I'll disagree with you, but like I said, that's your story and my belief. What about you? Can you talk to Mikey in the 6th grade and maybe help him?
Yeah, man. Going through school at a young age, like I was always looking for the validation. So I would switch up who I was just to fit in. I was that chameleon. Blended in everywhere I go, and just wanted people to smile and like me and know my name. And I would tell myself, man, just don't switch up who you are. Don't go chasing that validation. Be your true self. And like Matt said, there's no preventing drug use, but you can make them aware. And I would say it could happen to you. It will happen to you. Because for the longest time, man, I thought I was unique. It's not going to happen to me, but I've already had it before. Like I said, I put substances in my body, and my disease was brewing. And it finally boiled over once I put the first substance into my body.
Okay, now let me ask you guys this question. Your parents, okay? Let's say they were educated in substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you think, is there anything they could have done to kind of nip it in the bud with you guys? Let's say they actually knew.
So hypothetically, I don't know if my parents could have done any more than what they did.
Mm.
There's no effort that they didn't make.
Mm-hmm.
Where they aim their efforts and how they aim their efforts, even I questioned at times through my addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my addiction. That was my self-serving, addicted self that was, calling them out, pointing fingers and things like that. There's no playbook. There's Al-Anon. My parents have tried Al-Anon. I had a drunk driving when I was 17. I got my license the day I turned 16 and a half. I didn't even have my license until I was 17. I was one step from a habitual driver when I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
There was no love that they didn't give. There was no attention that they didn't give. There was no time I've ever called them that they haven't answered the phone or been there.
Right, but what I'm getting at is back then, and I'm going to take a wild guess they didn't, because I know back then I didn't. Do you think they thought of addiction as a disease or just bad choices?
No, my father grew up with the mindset of just put the shit down, dude.
Yeah.
And since he's been working, so he's the property management in Lawrence now, and he works for rooming houses. And since he's done that, his tone has changed from just put it down to, I wish there was more I could do, Matt. He firmly believes it's a disease. He had to see it through other people. He had
Sure.
to see it through people that he would see on a daily basis say the same things I did. You know, see it in so many cases, right? Once you see it, you know, 10 people tell you you're an asshole, right? So he had to see it in enough times, right? For him to say, wow, I don't get it, right? This guy is a great, you know, he's gregarious, he's bright-eyed, he's amazing. The next day he can't look me in the eyes, and I don't even know who this person is. He had to see that enough times to finally say it.
And that's what I'm getting at. Parents, for the most part, you know, there's still a lot of them now that will swear it's really not a sickness.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, what about your dad now?
You know, I mean, growing up, you know, my parents, it was weed back then that I was on chins for, and you know, and because weed did for me what it quieted my mind. It did everything that I was looking for, and you know, I think that's where the chins and then the probation on as a adolescent, and then the residentials, just because I kept telling people, listen, I'm not going to stop for my parents. I won't stop for the judge. I told the judge that, you know, and that's when they sent me away. Alcoholism runs in my mother's side of the family.
Sure.
Her dad died from it. 2 of her brothers died from it. So, and being a doctor, I think she was aware of it was a disease. My dad's side of the family, no one had addiction or
Sure.
alcoholism.
Yeah.
So, him, as his job, he went through life, and how he went through life, he didn't really cross paths with addiction. So when I started getting really bad, he started to learn about it and try to understand the way he could. So
You can't argue with doctors, Phil. You know, it's a known scientific fact that, you know, we make decisions in our frontal lobe, and that our addiction is stored in our
True.
hippocampus,
Yep.
and that, you know, that ability to make those decisions is no longer ours. It's now a matter of survival for an addict.
Mhm.
You know.
mhm.
We only got a couple minutes. How about a couple of closing thoughts, just to pass along to people that are listening?
Yeah, anyone that's been on the show today, thank you for listening. First and foremost, thank you for, you know, if tonight's your first night listening to me or hearing anything about my story, thank you. Yeah, stay strong. Anybody that's out there that's suffering, anyone needs a hand, you know, call the show, call Phil, call Mike, call me. My information is public knowledge. I have no problem showing up any point in time. My phone's always on, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those that came before me. So thank you.
You know, I would say we do recover, you know, don't give up. If there was any point of my story, man, I didn't give up. And, you know, I tell people all the time, especially coming in early sobriety or trying to get this, man, you have 2 options in life. You know, it's repeat or evolve. And with the pain, man, you have to push through. You have 2 options with that. You push through it and you reap the reward that you get from pushing through that pain, or you quit and that pain's going to last forever, you know. And our disease, that's where it shines and grinds, man, when we're in pain, and that's when it's strongest. And you know, don't give up. We do recover. We do make it out. There is a solution on the other end. It is possible. You just gotta, closed mouths don't get fed. You gotta open that mouth and put up your hand and say, I need help. And there's a ton of people out there waiting to help you.
Guys, I want to thank you for coming. I know Cole is probably pissed that she didn't get to do this show, but I'm sure she's watching. You guys, this is Matt's book. It's called The Duke of DoucheVille.
Check
Duke
it
of
out.
DoucheVille,
Duke
yes.
of
Check it out.
DoucheVille.
Yes.
Catchy name. You know what?
Well, that's who I was out there.
Yeah.
You know, that's who I thought I was, right?
Well, he gave me a couple copies. I'm going to give one to Cole, and I am going to read it because this is about the 5th or 6th author we've had, and all the books have been amazing. You know, you can go on Amazon, look up all these books. There's a lot of good things. Again, thank you guys. Good luck with your recovery.
Thank you, Phil.
You can, you know, when you're reaching out, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Friend me on Facebook. Everybody, hopefully Cole will be back at the next show. Until then, see you again on the empty chair. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.